Okay, let's unpack this. A bombshell report, right, from the Congressional Budget Office just landed.
Yeah, the CBO. Big stuff.
And it's projecting a staggering $4 trillion cut to our national debt.
That's the headline number, yeah. All thanks to President Trump's tariff policies.
$4 trillion. I mean, that's not just a number, is it? It's really ignited a fierce debate.
Oh, absolutely. Across the board.
You've got Republican senators pretty boldly claiming we're on the cusp of a golden age.
Mm-hmm. For American manufacturing, American jobs.
And they're pointing directly at these tariffs as the reason why.
That's the argument.
But then, of course, you hear the other side, the traditional free market folks.
Right. Warning about, rising prices for consumers, maybe echoes of past trade wars.
The familiar worries. So what's the real story here? Behind these, controversial trade tools, how are they actually reshaping America's economic future?
That's what we need to dig into.
So we're taking a deep dive into the facts today. The big question really is, are America's trade policies on the brink of, a revolution? Something poised to fundamentally alter our economy, maybe even our global standing?
It certainly feels like a pivotal moment.
Okay, so to really get a handle on this, let's start with the arguments for tariffs. The proponents.
Makes sense.
The huge news, like we said, is this potential for deficit reduction. Can you walk us through the CBO projection? Why is it grabbing so much attention?
Well, it's the sheer scale of it, really. The CBO, and remember, they're the nonpartisan agency giving Congress budget info.
Right.
They projected that tariffs put in place between January and August 2025 could cut what they call primary deficits by $3.3 trillion.
Okay, hang on. Primary deficits, just quickly.
Yeah, good question. That's basically the government's budget shortfall before you even count the interest payments we make on the national debt.
Got it. So $3.3 trillion off that.
Right. And then on top of that, these tariffs could save another $0.7 trillion in federal interest costs, the cost of servicing the debt.
So add those together.
And you get a total potential deficit reduction of $4.0 trillion over the next decade, roughly 2025 to 2035.
$4 trillion. I mean, that's a truly revolutionary figure, isn't it? It seems to fly in the face of a lot of economic thinking.
It absolutely does. And what's really revolutionary, like you said, isn't just the number. It's that it directly challenges, maybe even upends, a core assumption that tariffs only hurt an economy. This report forces people to reconsider that. And if you think bigger picture, this kind of revenue, well, it could potentially be used to offset other taxes. Or maybe even help tame inflation, because the government is getting needed funds just in a different way.
So the financial side is huge. But beyond the budget numbers, a lot of the talk is about something more tangible, right?
Yeah.
Back here on American soil.
Exactly. Revitalizing manufacturing, creating jobs.
That's where this golden age idea comes in.
That's right. You hear Republican senators like Jim Banks from Indiana talking about a significant boost in our manufacturing economy directly because of tariffs.
And they're pointing to specific areas.
Yeah, sectors like automotive, medical devices, pharmaceuticals showing strong performance. Senator Eric Schmidt from Missouri echoes this, saying tariffs are creating more manufacturing jobs and guiding us towards that golden age, just like President Trump promised.
It's a really bold claim. And it touches on that other argument that tariffs aren't just about money, they're about leverage.
Precisely. Leverage in global negotiations. President Trump's strategy is pretty explicit about aiming to keep negotiating partners, off balance.
To get better deals for us.
To secure better deals for U.S. exporters, yeah. We actually saw this play out with Canada. They lowered their own tariffs in response to Trump's threats. It showed that this leverage can be real.
Okay.
And this leads straight to that key question. Who actually pays for these tariffs?
Right. Does it all just get passed on to us?
Well, proponents argue, no, not always. Foreign suppliers, they really want to keep selling into the big U.S. market.
Of course.
So they often choose to absorb some of that tariff cost themselves. They might trim their profit margins instead of just hiking the price for American buyers.
So it's a strategic move for them, too.
Exactly, to stay competitive. And, if the cost was purely passed on, why would foreign leaders be, as some sources put it, scared to death of these tariffs?
It's a fair point.
Yeah.
So what this all means is tariffs are being seen as more than just economic tools.
Definitely. They're viewed as strategic, even geopolitical advantages.
How so? Like national security.
Yeah, exactly. Protecting crucial domestic supply chains.
No.
Think about steel fundamental for infrastructure, defense, or advanced computer chips.
Powering everything.
Everything, from phones to military gear. So the argument is, by supporting these industries with tariffs, the U.S. becomes less reliant on potentially unstable or, frankly, adversarial foreign suppliers.
Ensuring economic sovereignty, national security.
That's the idea.
Okay, that's a powerful case for tariffs. But it's definitely not the whole story. Not everyone is convinced this is a net positive.
Not at all.
Critics, including, many free market economists, they warn about some pretty significant downsides.
Yeah.
What are their main worries?
Well, the first one, the most immediate one probably, is about higher prices for consumers.
Right. Stuff costing more.
Yeah. Senator Jack Reed, a Democrat, reported hearing from business leaders who are raising prices due to increased tariffs, especially on goods from China.
And we see that in the data.
We do. The Bureau of Labor Statistics said the CPI, the Consumer Price Index.
That measures inflation, basically.
Right. The average change in prices we pay, it rose 2.7% annually in July. Core prices, which strip out volatile food and energy, were up 3.1%.
So the impact on the average American's wallet, that's a very real concern. And it's not a new argument, is it? We've heard this before.
Oh, for decades. Free market thinkers, giants like Milton Friedman, Thomas Sowell, Walter Williams, they consistently argued tariffs are basically a form of taxation.
That hurts consumers.
Exactly. By making goods cost more and reducing the variety available, they saw tariffs as, well, economically destructive, plain and simple.
Okay, so beyond the direct cost to consumers, what about the bigger picture? The overall economy. We heard the CBO's deficit projection, which sounds good, but are there other studies showing maybe a different impact on growth or jobs?
There are, yeah. The CBO itself, in other projections, suggested tariffs could actually reduce the level of U.S. real GDP, our total economic output, by about 0.1% back in 2022.
Okay, small but negative.
And also potentially decrease exports by 0.5%, reduce business investment by 0.3%. Another analysis even estimated a bigger hit, potentially 0.37% lower GDP annually, and maybe a loss of over 900,000 American jobs if tariffs escalated.
Wow, 900,000 jobs. Those are serious numbers. It really brings to mind those historical warnings, doesn't it, about trade wars?
It certainly does. Critics often bring up the ghost of the Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act, 1930.
Right, the infamous one.
Infamous, exactly. It's widely blamed for drastically slashing global trade maybe by over 60% and making the Great Depression much worse because other countries hit back with their own tariffs.
A cautionary tale for sure.
A powerful one about unintended consequences.
So we have these historical warnings like Smoot-Hawley about stifling trade, maybe costing jobs. And even though the CBO report shows tariffs reducing the deficit, are there still wider concerns about the overall national debt and maybe even constitutional questions?
Yes, on both counts. While that CBO report focused on tariff revenue helping the deficit,
Right.
Other analyses look at the bigger picture. Desmond Lackman at the American Enterprise Institute, for instance, warns that President Trump's broader, one big, beautiful bill, which is more than just tariffs, could still add maybe $3.4 trillion to the deficit over the next decade.
Even with the tariff money coming in.
Even with that, he projects the debt could hit a record 124% of GDP by 2034. So, it's complicated.
Very. And then there's this really interesting legal angle. Hugh Hewitt, who's been a free market advocate for a long time.
Yeah, he raised concerns about the president's authority here.
How so?
Well, the power the president uses often comes from laws like the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, or IEEPA.
That gives the president broad powers in emergencies.
Very broad powers for economic sanctions. Hewitt and others are questioning if imposing these kinds of sweeping edicts, as he put it, is okay, especially if it's not clearly tied to a specific national security threat. And this whole debate around IEPA, it could actually end up in the Supreme Court. It might even revive this old legal idea called the non-delegation doctrine.
Okay, remind us the non-delegation doctrine.
It's basically a constitutional principle that says Congress can't just hand off its core lawmaking powers to someone else, like the president.
So this isn't just about economics anymore. It's touching on fundamental questions about the balance of power in government.
Precisely. It adds a whole other layer of complexity, doesn't it?
It really does.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on slightly. Tariffs haven't always been, the go-to policy on the American right.
Not at all.
Their prominence today really signals a pretty big ideological shift in conservative thinking, right? How did we get here? What's this change actually look like?
It's a fascinating shift. Historically, the Republican Party was the party of free markets, free trade. Thinkers like Friedman, Sowell, Williams, their ideas were almost like a litmus test for conservatives interested in economics.
Right. That was the standard view for a long time.
Absolutely. But President Trump's policies, they represent what some observers call a slide away from that free market, free trade agenda towards something different, an industrial policy.
Yeah, industrial policy. Meaning what, exactly?
Meaning the government takes a more active role, using tools like tariffs, subsidies, and even government ownership.
Wait, government ownership. That sounds like a really radical departure from traditional conservative ideas. What are we talking about here?
It is radical,
Yep.
and we're seeing concrete examples. President Trump has discussed plans for the U.S. government to actually take a 10% ownership stake in huge companies like Intel and U.S. Steel through something called golden shares. And these aren't just passive investments, you know. They give the federal government voting rights, real control over key company decisions.
Wow.
It's a profound step. Critics, like those writing in the Hillsdale Collegian, called it de facto nationalization. They pointed out that most conservatives, maybe 15 years ago, would have absolutely balked at that idea.
Unequivocally, yeah.
So it really shows how much things have shifted.
So this isn't just about trade policy then. It's fundamentally redefining the government's role in the economy itself. And that's creating a kind of ideological battle within the right.
Exactly. You've got the traditionalists pushing back hard, seeing it as government overreach into private business. But then you have this new right who see these policies, tariffs, strategic investments, the whole package as, well, necessary.
Necessary how?
As a pragmatic response to today's global economy, to what they see as unfair practices by other countries.
So it's no longer a single unified view. Even people who were skeptical of tariffs before are maybe rethinking things.
That's right. And what's really interesting here is that some folks who were historically pretty wary of tariffs are now looking at them differently, maybe seeing them as a pragmatic, immediate mitigation for really complex problems.
Like what kind of problems?
Like fiscal imbalances caused by different countries having wildly different tax rules or regulations. Maybe other countries are subsidizing their industries unfairly.
Creating an uneven playing field.
Exactly. So it's sort of a recognition that the global economic game has changed, and maybe a purely hands-off approach just isn't enough anymore.
Okay, let's try and pull all these threads together. For you, listening,
Mm-hmm.
what does this all mean? We've journeyed through this really intricate world of tariffs.
Yeah, from the potential maybe to slash the debt by trillions and spark this manufacturing golden age.
To the historical warnings about higher prices, trade wars, job losses.
And even this major shift happening within conservative economic thinking itself.
So it really sparks a crucial question, doesn't it?
It does. Is the choice here really a simple one? Is it just traditional free markets versus this new industrial policy? Or is it more nuanced?
You mean, are tariffs just a tool in a complex global economy? A tool with specific trade-offs?
Exactly. Capable, perhaps, of both generating huge revenue and boosting domestic industry, but also requiring really careful navigation to avoid those historical downsides.
And as all the sources we've looked at show, this debate is far, far from over.
The answer, whatever it is, will likely shape America's economic path for generations. So, the question for you is, what stands out as the most crucial trade-off we face in this evolving economic strategy?
Definitely something to chew on as you go about your day. We really hope this deep dive has given you a clearer picture of all the forces at play in this critical economic debate. Thanks for diving deep with us.